Thank you, George, for that very warm introduction. And also, I just want to say hello to everybody and thank you very much for turning up to our second webinar on the Teaching in Colleges Today Learn Online programme. In terms of what we're doing today, you'll have seen from our webinar aims that the focus of this particular webinar today is twofold. First of all, as a course tutor for this programme, I wanted to ensure that anybody who was new to the Teaching in Colleges Today content had a chance to familiarise themselves with what the course was about, some of the benefits of using this particular programme of learning, and also to take the opportunity to highlight some of the new and updated learning materials that we've been working on over the summer break. The second part of today's presentation, which really relates to bullet 3 in this slide, will be led by Mary Boyd, who carries out our external verification on behalf of CDN for the Teaching in Colleges Today programme, as George has already indicated. And the focus of the second part of today's webinar, Mary will be using today to highlight areas of good practice for any of those of you who are involved either as college tutors, mentors, or assessing candidate work, and also for those involved in internally verifying the assessment decisions carried out within your college. So let's move on to a little bit about the background context of what Teaching in Colleges Today actually is. Sorry, actually, before we do that, sorry, apologies, folks. Can I bring up, George, can you please bring up the first poll question, please? I think what would be useful at this point is just to get a little bit of background from you about your current level of knowledge so that I can focus the future content to best suit your needs. So, folks, if you'd like just to take a few seconds just to give us an indication of what you know currently about TiCT and the TiCT course, that would be really helpful. Thank you. Okay, that's great. So we've got quite a few who are already familiar with the TiCT materials and who are working with them already, and a couple of people who are involved in staff development. So that's great. It's good that you've come along today, and hopefully we'll be able to provide you with enough information today or point you as to where you can get the information so you can learn about why you might want to use it moving forward in your college. Okay, thank you, George. That's great. Okay, back to the slides in the presentation. So what exactly is Teaching Colleges Today? It's a programme that we affectionately know as TiCT. We like our acronyms, and that's one of the, I don't know, the benefits or the downsides of having worked with SQA over the years. I'm a lover of acronyms. So TiCT is an SCQF level 7 credit rated programme. And it's ideal in supporting any new college lecturers in their CPD journey. One of the key features of the programme is it's free to use, so all the Learn Online content materials can be used at any time, at any place by your staff. And whether they're new staff or whether they're existing lecturers, they can be used to help them reflect on their current practices and also to keep them up to date with the things that are impacting on the work in Scotland's colleges and the things that are influencing the qualifications and the work that we do on a day-to-day basis with our learners. The TiCT programme was developed principally to help address the immediate staff development needs of newly appointed lecturers coming into work within colleges with vocational skills and expertise, but for those who perhaps had limited or very little experience of either formal teaching and or who had no prior teaching qualifications. And for many staff, having the opportunity to engage in a more formal type of learning that included credible benchmarking of competence and knowledge or skills is important. And that's one of the reasons we felt it was important to have this particular qualification SCQF credit rated officially. The additional benefit of having the TiCT programme credit rated in the SCQF, as you know, for those of you working in the sector, SCQF relates to all of the qualifications that we deliver, And the framework allows us to very easily compare the content of learning and the depth and breadth of learning against pre-existing qualifications. By using and aligning to the SCQF, we can also develop staff's understanding of the different SCQF framework levels and descriptors, helping them identify and plan career-long staff CPD, as well as developing their knowledge and understanding of how the SCQF framework levels relate to the level of challenge and demand in the qualifications that colleges offer today. So a win-win really. Formal accreditation of learning, but also a really understanding of how the SCQF works. So a little bit more now about the background to the TiCT programme. We recognise that at times there can be delays in getting new lecturers registered and enrolled in staff development programmes, such as the PDAs and also the TQFE programmes, especially when they come into the sector and if they're working in part-time contracts. So Teaching in Colleges Today was designed as a flexible way to help support newly appointed college lecturers develop their teaching and assessment skills within a working environment. And it positively complements existing college staff initial induction programmes and also supports other professional development pathways and qualifications. We have a range of colleges currently using the TiCT materials, either formally delivering the unit within their colleges for new lecturers, but also informally for staff CPD purposes and updates, as its content aligns well with the current professional standards for college lecturers and also with the existing PDAs and TQFE programme content. And in this way, TiCT, we believe, provides a really useful focus that helps you ensure there are coherent pathways for staff progression. So as such, the primary focus of TiCT, it could be seen as providing an accessible entry route into career-long professional learning and a way to help any new lecturers within your college get up to speed quickly and develop their skills, confidence and abilities to plan, prepare and effectively deliver high-quality learning, teaching and assessment experiences. The additional benefit of the TiCT unit content is that it also focuses on promoting self-reflection and evaluation as part of a lecturer's professional practice. And with the new How Good is Our College quality assurance model, all of these features, we believe, help support lecturers with industry experience to more fully understand the role and expectations of what it means to be a lecturer in colleges today. Okay, I'd like to, George, if you would mind putting up the next TiCT webinar poll. We regularly review and update the content within the Learn Online teaching materials, and we normally do this biannually, sort of a mid-term review around sort of January in the year, and a more substantial review about the summer break when the level of activity is a little bit quieter. But we really would welcome feedback both from candidates and also college staff about how we can improve things further. So can you take a few minutes just to reflect and type in your response about which parts of our Teaching Colleges Today unit content you've found most useful up until now, and maybe also why you found it particularly useful. Thanks. Okay, that's great. Yep, the videos of lectures and students. Yeah, that's really helpful. Something that's on our radar to try and update some of those. We were also thinking about possibly some PowerPoints with some audio description, or maybe some short mini podcasts or something, just to make it a little bit more interactive. Okay, good. Again, videos coming up as a useful thing. Cartoon clips. Yep, it's quite nice to inject a bit of humour in what can be quite serious topics at times. Okay, and that's really useful. Templates are good for guidance. Yeah, yep. If you've been in the site recently, you'll have seen we've been doing a little bit of refreshing on those, and we've got some plans that to provide some additional information to help show you how you can use the templates for new assessors who are maybe delivering this unit for the first time. Okay. Yeah, podcast. Yep, absolutely. I think that's one of my things I was debating about, the fact that people can listen to them and review them again and again. Okay, so we've covered a little bit of an introduction about what TiCT is for those of you who maybe don't know very much about the programme. It's SCQF credit levelled at 7. It is part of an initial teacher education programme, a coherent progression pathway for staff CPD, and of course it's free to use, which is a significant benefit, we believe. So let's just talk about some of the programme content updates for 2017-18. I have mentioned previously that what we normally do is we go through a fairly major refresh over the summer period when the level of activity is a little bit lower. And then that sort of second mini refresh around January, just to do a quick sense check and see if there's any new information that's really important that needs to be added. For those of you familiar with the content, you should be aware that all of the Learn Online material for teaching colleges today is designed to provide background information on the full range of topics that lecturers completing the unit would need to be familiar with, and also the subtopics and topics within each category or tab. They all relate to key aspects of learning that staff will need to be able to successfully plan, prepare, deliver and evaluate a lesson. Over the summer period, the larger review has made a number of fairly significant changes, and some of you might have already been in and had a little look around the new site. For those familiar with the online materials previously, one of the most obvious changes is that up until this summer, within the last couple of weeks, the Teaching Colleges Today programme content was split into 5 categories or tabs. But what we were finding was that the amount of information within each section was becoming increasingly difficult to navigate through without losing track of where you had got up to in terms of working through the content. So we made a decision over the summer to subdivide the sections, splitting up the content into more discrete chunks of learning content. And we hope that this will make it more easy to find specific content, and also for those of you who maybe want to access particular parts of the site and find things very quickly. So for example, the old college context tab now has been split into college context and a second tab which is sector influences and initiatives. Learner engagement, the old tab heading, is now learner engagement and lesson planning, which more accurately reflects what's actually within that tab. And then the second tab is on learning and teaching. We've similarly split the former assessment process tab now into 2 sections, one on assessment practice, but we've created a new tab called the power of feedback, because we know that the importance of feedback and how that drives the quality improvement and the efficacy of the learning and teaching process. In addition to that, as part of our ongoing quality assurance process, as part of a credit rated qualification, we also decided that it would be worthwhile adding in 2 additional new sections. The first of these is a tutor mentor documents section. So this is where we've housed all of the background information for those of you who perhaps are unfamiliar with the programme and want to understand a little bit more about how it works, what your role is as a college in terms of making the programme work and delivering the programme, and what CDN do to support that process. So really explaining that whole process in detail. And that will save you hopefully having to pick up the phone and try to identify a member of staff here and ask questions should you wish to offer the programme for the first time. A second area which will not be immediately visible to you at present is a new secure area, and we have designed this specifically for dedicated college IV contacts, so internal verifier leads, a single person within each of your colleges. and this is titled EV Dates and Candidate Submission Upload Area. And we felt that this was an opportunity to start using the Moodle platform to allow you, instead of sending in materials by post, to actually upload the documents for the external verification process. So things like our supporting documents, the candidate registration form, etc., as well as your candidate assessment evidence, that allows you to upload those in advance of the EV dates. And currently, Katrina Blair, one of my colleagues here at CDN, she has been sending out emails to all centres who currently deliver the Teaching Colleges Today programme, and just asking to ensure that we have an up-to-date email and contact details for a single point of contact, the IV lead, who will be able to get access to this part of the site. I mentioned earlier on that this is the second webinar that we've done for TiCT. I did one as a sort of an introduction to the programme last year, which some of you might have attended. And so I just thought it was worthwhile highlighting a couple of additional things that we've added to the material content this year, because they were highlighted as part of that webinar last year. So in addition to a general tidying up of content, and we have added a variety of new information and the sections that I've mentioned. So for example, you will find that there are new information graphics on things like foundation apprenticeships. We've uploaded a copy of the Scottish Government Digital Learning and Teaching Strategy for Scotland, which of course we know the importance of ensuring that technology enhanced learning is really understood, and that we're working towards making the best use of our resources. And there's also new information about the Education Scotland Quality Assurance Model, How Good is Our College, just so that people have ready access to that and they understand how to reflect effectively on their effectiveness as a teacher. So please look out for the new infographics. They cover a range of topics. They're threaded throughout all the various sections, and we hope that you find. Following on from that, we'd really just like to get a few hints and tips from you as to some additional things that might be useful to include during our next refresh of TiCT. So all suggestions here welcomed. So perhaps new materials, new topics in terms of content, perhaps even a new focus or a new scope for a future webinar. Any suggestions here, folks, would be greatly appreciated. Okay, can we monitor access of staff when this is a formal qualification? As course tutor, I can actually go in and I have the data analytics to do that. It's something we have been asked about previously, and from that perspective, we know when people are accessing. We can see the number of views on particular pieces of information. But I think from memory, I think there was an issue about, is it data protection? In terms of whether we can give you that information. So I will look into that in terms of what we can do and how we can provide you with maybe some update on how regularly the process is being used. In terms of this sort of second comment here, a way that we can share good practice for this programme, yeah, absolutely. That's something that was raised last year and also as part of the reaccreditation process. And that's one of the reasons we've got Mary participating today. So sharing good practice, understanding what works, explaining what the standards are, is really important for existing assessors, but also for new assessors, and hopefully today we'll go part way with that. Sharing information in digital technologies, ideas, resources, yeah, absolutely. This is such a hot topic just now. I've done a little bit of work on this, and there is a couple of infographics and a little bit of new content around the use of digital technology. It could be further expanded. So yes, happy to look into that and see what else we can do. Perhaps maybe moving some additional things and putting something in the professional development area, where it's something that it provides additionality to passing the TiCT unit. because we need to maintain the balance so that we don't overload the content for staff to work through. We have to recognise that it is only worth 3 SCQF credit points. Okay, final comment here. I work in a college that is bring your own device centred, in a section helping staff to deal with managing the students and their devices. Yeah, really great idea. One thing that you won't be aware of, or you maybe will not have seen yet, we have been working into a slightly different layout. I'm not sure if any of you have looked at our new cooperative learning course materials that are available on Learn Online. The longer term plan is that we think we're likely to move progressively towards that type of layout. Oh, great. So yes, loved it. Great. Delighted to hear that. It was a labour of love putting it all together. So that's great feedback. Thank you. We're hoping that TiCT will transfer to a similar format, and the reason we changed the format was about making it more accessible on a range of bring your own devices rather than just standard things. So watch this space. I'm not sure how quickly we'll be able to transfer the content over, but yes, that's definitely something on our radar. So that's great. Loads of great ideas there. Thank you very much, folks. Okay, back to the webinar slides, and just another one, possibly two, and then I'll hand over to Mary. So if you're not already delivering the programme, why would you want to do it? Well, I think first of all, you would get an increased awareness of the college context, and I think whether that's somebody returning to work perhaps in the further education sector after a gap, maybe after being away and working in industry and coming back into education, or somebody entirely new, that's really important. It is all about ensuring that your staff have the confidence to plan and deliver high quality learning, and you should get that out of completing the programme. And also hopefully some tips and ways to ensure that you're creating engaging and active learning experiences. Because it's online, of course, you have access to the content at any time and any place. And as we move towards a slightly different format on Moodle and presentation, that will become even more easily accessible on laptops and handheld devices. Professional standards alignment is a key thing, especially, as I say, with the delays sometimes in getting people on more formal accredited programmes of learning. And as a stepping stone to additional learning and ensuring that staff actually work productively together, the opportunities for peer-to-peer learning and professional dialogue with support from your college-based tutor and mentor, I think cannot be underestimated. So, in terms of choosing TiCT as part of your staff development portfolio, it should help keep your staff engaged and motivated, and help them develop and apply their knowledge of effective teaching and learning in really focused and purposeful ways, while simultaneously fostering effective team building and the sharing and dissemination of good practice through the college mentoring role. So thank you very much. That's hopefully provided you with an introduction to TiCT, what it is. I'm now going to hand across to Mary Boyd, who's going to provide a recap of some of the good practice suggestions.
My points are probably aimed at those of you who are going to be involved in assessing, delivering the programme, internally verifying, and maybe even coordinating the programme at your colleges. In terms of the use of feedback forms, last session I noticed that there was a range of different ways in which candidates were being given feedback. I think that using the recommended forms, so the record of evidence, ensures that all candidates are being given feedback in a consistent way. These forms are available on the TiCT pages on the CDN Learn Online site. Some centres I noticed only used track changes to give feedback to candidates. Whilst there's nothing wrong with using track changes, the feedback tends to be more of a kind of specific correction rather than a broad developmental comment. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend using track changes as the only means of feedback to your candidates. Given that this programme is in the main being delivered to new lecturers, the fuller the feedback comments are, the more helpful overall the programme will be to your participants. This will provide better guidance to support the new lecturers in developing their teaching practice. You should try to be clear and specific in any points you make in your feedback. If, for example, if you don't think a part of a lesson plan has adequate detail or content, then provide examples of things that the candidates could be including for the next time. This programme is all about helping someone to develop the practice, become a more effective lecturer, and to have ideas to think about for future practice, for future lessons. It's not so much about, you know, passing or failing, it's much more about developing practice. This point is very closely related to the last couple. Try not to just give feedback that says everything's fine, it says to pass. This will probably be the first in a pathway of learning and teaching programmes which the new lecturer will do. So help them improve their practice, provide some challenge without destroying any confidence, and provide areas for the candidate to develop in their teaching. If there's no challenge, then any learning from the programme is going to be limited. So I'm saying here that assessors should be familiar with the course material on the TiCT pages. And what I mean by this is that if you as assessors or mentors are familiar with most of the materials covered in the course, then you can evaluate how much of the learning is evident in the candidate's lesson plan or observed lesson. So you can, for example, you can look for some of the teaching activities that are included in the programme materials. You can look for these in the candidate's practice. It also prevents you as an assessor looking for perhaps too much at this stage. You know, remember this programme is level 7, it's not a PDA, it's not a TQFE, it won't be delving into teaching strategies or anything really deep like that. So being aware of the materials, the teaching materials, just allows your feedback to be appropriate to the level of this programme. In terms of how and when this programme is run, I think it works really well when it's run as it was originally intended, i.e. as part of an overall induction programme for a new lecturer commencing at college. One centre I noticed, for example, was requiring all new lecturers to complete the programme within the first 6 months of commencing at the college. This is of course only a recommendation, and each centre will have slightly different arrangements. You'll have different resources, and you know, you'll have your own ideas about when and how to run it. If you have the delivery model where you've got a group of assessors, then it definitely makes sense to try to have a kind of common start date for all the candidates and completion date too. This just means that the coordinator of the programme and the internal verifier can have a pre-delivery standardisation meeting. And at the end of the programme, a post-delivery verification can take place, and the evidence from all the candidates coming in at the same time and can be verified and sampled at the same time. So of course there must be records of post-delivery internal verification of the assessment process, and also pre-delivery if there are a few assessors on the programme. And it's important in verification to ensure that consistent standards have been applied by all assessors. One particular example of good practice last session demonstrated that assessment evidence was verified over time as well as across different assessors. And I thought this was really, you know, really good practice. It ensured candidates were being given fair treatment irrespective of who their assessor was, and also irrespective of which year and when they were taking up the programme. That centre also provided post-delivery verification feedback individually to all the assessors. So how likely are you to use the Teaching in Colleges Today programme in the future and or recommend the programme to others? All right, that's a nice positive result. I've talked about the assessment checklists or the record of evidence that's available for assessors to use in the programme. So I just wondered, what do you think of how do you find these checklists? Do they work for you, or do you think they could be better? Okay, so the majority of people finding that they're good, but some feeling that there maybe could be some improvement. Okay. And this question is asking, when do you think is the best time to run the Teaching Colleges Today programme? At the very start of a candidate's teaching practice, later on in the first year of teaching, or at another time? So again, the majority of people thinking that it's best at the start of a candidate's teaching practice. Now, I tend to agree with that. It's not an onerous programme. I think it's quite a practical and really helpful programme for new lecturers to help them get started in their practice. And this is asking, are we externally verifying at the right times? Yes, so some people saying yes. Yes, currently it's twice a year, once in October and October and March, April time. Yes, that's right. Having it twice a year can let you carry over holiday periods if you find that candidates just don't manage to get it finished in time. It takes the pressure off a bit, I think. So someone's commenting it would be better to have a rolling programme as you have delivery several times a year. That's interesting and something that we'll take on board and see how best we can accommodate that.